Guillerme, and I'm Secretary General of the T.I.M.E Association, and I will be the moderator for this 1-hour webinar. So today we are taking a quick look about a very important topic for the higher education institution: digital strategies during time of crisis. I guess we are all looking for effective strategies and also keen to see what others are thinking and are doing. So to talk about it and bring some expertise, I have the pleasure to welcome and introduce our two speakers. First, welcome to Aldo Torrebruno. He's an education manager of the engineering schools of Politecnico di Milano. And I'm also very happy to welcome Francesca Saracino, head of the career service office at Politecnico di Milano. So a few words about the organization. So each speaker will have roughly 20 minutes per presentation, and after the two presentations, we will have some time for discussion. So if you have any questions, if you have any comments, do not hesitate to send your question via the chat. So today we will first address how Politecnico di Milano has been adapting its processes to sustain teaching and maintain interaction between the students and professor. But the question is also, what about students and companies? How come has it been possible to maintain, if I can say so, a conversation between students and companies? What about events such as job fairs that were planned? And so we will discuss about it during the second part of the webinar with Francesca Saracino. So I think we can start our presentation, and I will first welcome Aldo Torrebruno. So Aldo, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Gwenaëlle, and welcome everybody to this presentation. I will try to tell you how my university, our university, the two presentations are strongly related because are 2 points of view about the crisis here in Polimi, how we decide to cope with the crisis that all of you know. I try to share my screen. I hope it works. So please tell me if it's working. Okay. And so I am one of the education manager of the School of Engineering of the Politecnico di Milano. I manage students and professors of the School of Industrial and Information Engineering. So the biggest school here at Politecnico di Milano, with more or less the 65% of the students of the whole Polimi. So it's very big. And okay, we have several programs in the field of industrial and information engineering. And so what happened this year? The title of my presentation is It Could Work, and maybe all of you are aware of this famous movie, Frankenstein Jr., in which the protagonist says, it could work, because we discovered that we could move all our teaching and research activities to online, to distance learning. So we are strongly convinced that is important the in-presence teaching, but it was impossible, and so we discovered that it could also work online. So just to give you a picture, I think all of us are aware of the situation, because I downloaded this image from UNESCO, and during the peak of April, the 91.4% of the students worldwide were at home. So it's something that in in the contemporary era never happened to us. And I discovered that just in small places around the world, schools were not closed during the peak of April. So it's something really, really, really global. And we had to cope with something of never happened and really global. So I want to start my presentation with a quotation of an author that I love and I strongly suggest you to read, who is Yuval Harari, a famous historian who wrote 3 books that I found really, really interesting before of the coronavirus, of course. And the books are about the past, the present, and the future. And in my opinion, he is very brilliant and it's very interesting reading his book. But he wrote also an important article on the newspaper, in this case on the Financial Times, during the time of the crisis. And I think he says something really, really enlightening, because he says, this decision that in normal times could take years of deliberation are passed in a matter of hours. And immature and even dangerous technologies are pressed into service because the risk of doing nothing are bigger. So it's exactly what happened to us. Entire countries serve as guinea pigs in large-scale social experiments. I think in the schools and in the universities we did exactly. We transform our professor and students in guinea pigs. And what happens when everybody works from home and communicates only at a distance? What happens when entire schools and universities go online? In normal times, government, businesses, and educational boards who never agree to conduct such experiments, but these aren't normal times. And when we choosing between alternatives, we should ask ourselves not only how to overcome the immediate threat, but also what kind of world we will inhabit once the storm passes. Because yes, the storm will pass, humankind will survive, most of us will survive, but we will inhabit a different world. And this is, in my opinion, very important, because we decided to find a way to do our second semester during the coronavirus crisis, but we, starting from the beginning, we decided also to ask us, what about the future, the new normal? Which will be the new normal? And so we acted in every time thinking about the future, not only the present, not only to get by during the present, but also to think about the future. Here you have the link of the important article of Yuval Harari that I will suggest you. So what happened to Italy? In Italy, you know, we were one of the most infected countries in the world, and one of the first that have to face the COVID. In Politecnico di Milano, the second semester started on February 24th. And we just finished all the first semester exams, fortunately, because so when the 21 of February, the first symptoms of COVID arrived in Italy, and universities decided to close, we just finished all the exams. And with thinking it now, I say by chance, because exams are a huge problem. Lessons, lecture, we switched online lecture in a easy way, not so easy, but we succeeded. But the exams, now we are doing the exam online in distance mode, and it's a bigger challenge than the lecture. In 2 weeks, we put more than 2,100 subjects online, and we just needed 2 weeks more for laboratories. So in those 2 weeks, between the 24th and the 13th of March, that was my last day here in office before switching to smart working. We put a lot of subjects online, and a lot of subjects with professor not so prepared to go to switch online. I had the chance to, I work in Politecnico. I've been working here from September 2000, and my field of interest is also the online teaching and learning processes. So I had the chance to be the right person for that moment, but our faculty was not so prepared to what happened. And so we had to talk with all the professors, more or less, asking them, okay, you now have to move your teaching online. Which kind of teaching you want to do? And with what is the way of teaching you prefer? And we gave them 4 alternatives to go online. And so we decided to divide our faculty in those 4 categories. We decided the categories in a very quick way. So we met the committee that coordinates the crisis unit, and we decided that we could give 4 options to our teachers. So the first one were the hardcore Ardesians, so people who need the blackboard. They wanted to use the blackboard. They cannot get by without the blackboard, and we have an important person, professor in this category, because our dean decided to do his lecture with the blackboard. And those are the most difficult people, because they needed assistance, because not all the professor had a blackboard at home, so they needed to be here in Politecnico. And so just the professor in a classroom with a camera and the blackboard. An important thing, we decided immediately not to record and give students the recordings, but to do everything in a synchronous way. So we decided that all the lecture must be synchronous, maintaining the same timetable we had before. And so all the students could follow the lecture in the same times that they would use if we had everything here in presence. So those are the first group. And the interesting things is that during the semester, at the very beginning of the activity, a lot of Ardesians move to DocCam lovers, the second category, because they noticed that it was easy to use the software we decided to use to go online, which was Microsoft Teams, because it's the software we already had here in Politecnico. So we decided to use Microsoft Teams. And they came to university, but they noticed that they could do also at home with the DocCam. So the second category is the DocCam lovers. We found in a very quick way on Amazon this particular object, and we bought a lot of them. This is a DocCam. I think you say it. I didn't know that existed. They are very practical because it's a webcam that you can use to project, to send online the picture of a paper, a sheet of paper, for example, like this. So you have the paper, you have the DocCam, and it's like a blackboard because you write on the paper, and with the DocCam you put online in a synchronous way. So it's a webcam, but for docs. So very, very easy, but it was very powerful for us because a lot of professors noticed that could be a very good idea in order to do their lecture, writing and using all the docs they needed, because okay, they use the screen sharing to share the docs from their laptop or computer, and the DocCam in order to write directly. So very important for them. And then we had table writers. We bought a lot of tablet, because a lot of people noticed that also using a tablet with a pen, a smart pen, they could take notes and so on. And then creative people. So people are ready for online teaching and learning, and they decided to do particular things. For example, a very interesting experiment we did is the flipped square. I called in this way. So flipped classroom, which is more or less well known, but squared, because also the activity that you usually do in class were performed online. And we gave them technical and methodological suggestions and assistance, and we move all the people, the majority of people, from university buildings to their houses. And so one of the goal we set at the beginning was to move the majority of the professor to their houses. Immediately we closed to students, and then we moved teacher to their houses. During the online lecture, we gave them Microsoft Teams, and our IT department was incredible because they create all the virtual classroom. We made the communication to students, we made the communication to professor. We decided, as I told you before, to use the previous timetables. In this way, we could avoid the overlapping lecture because the timetable was already done. And we just had some asynchronous communication with some tutorials. So I produced a lot of tutorials for professors, in particular for professors, because students were smarter than professors. And for example, how to set a classroom in Teams, how to use the DocAM, how, and etc., etc. And we kindly ask our professor to record their lessons in order to allow different paces of the students, because we didn't know how students could manage with the online teaching. And also we didn't know about the connectivity that every student has at home. And so using the recording, you can manage also if you have a lack of connection in some moment and so on. And the students were very happy about it, in particular about the possibility to use the recording of the lecture in order to come back to some concept and so on. During this period, we had the rise of the memes. There are several accounts of jokes about made by students on the Instagram and the social network. And okay, for example, you can say this one: I bet there will be flying cars in the future. And then in 2020, this is an example of the use of the DocAM. In this case, the professor writes on the paper and everything is good. And this is the repository of our lectures online. So using Microsoft Stream, you have the repository. And during that period, as maybe you know, Pornhub decided to get to become free in Italy. And you have this fantastic meme about Pornhub. No, Pornhub, I prefer the lecture of the Politecnico. So we were very proud of our students that made a lot of memes, very funny. Then we had also several graduation days. And so we had to switch online also the graduation days. Till now, we already faced a Bachelor of Science graduation day and a Master of Science graduation day. And then we have another one in July. So we are more or less prepared now. And during the first one, March 4 and 5, Italy was not totally closed, so we did it in a mixed way. Students fully online and professor in presence. And so the commission were here, was here in Politecnico, but the students were all at home. And then Master of Science graduation day on April 28 and 29. It was an horrible period for Italy because everything was closed and we were all at home. and so was fully online, and just one professor was in presence in order to give a sense of presence of the Polimi in the life. So the students could see a room of Polimi when they graduate. And we succeeded to put more than 3,000 students on the job market because we allow them to graduate as a bachelor or master of science students, graduates now. So they made the defense online. Of course, they missed the party atmosphere. We didn't have songs these days and so on, but they are now on the job market and they don't lose precious time. And we granted access also to the families. So for families it was very important because they were all at home. Maybe you live in the north of Italy and you have your grandmother in the south of Italy, and your grandmother could follow your graduation, I think understanding nothing more or less about something of very tricky in computer science and engineering or in biomedical engineering, but was really proud. And this was an occasion to ease a lot of bureaucratic issues. So for example, we still had the holographic signature and we switched to digital signature, and we decided to involve less professor in every commission and so on. So we used the dramatic situation in order to ease a lot of bureaucratic issue. And in this case, I want to underline that it was one of the occasions in which we decided to take a look further. So we asked us, okay, we have some procedure that we can ease, and also not only for this graduation period, but also for the next years. And so we did it. And of course, during graduation, we see things you people wouldn't believe. For example, it was in the same accounts on the social network, people, the only Corona I want in my life, people joking and so on, but they were also really, really proud. Okay, this is a typical example of people with in the outside without just with come si dice giacca, I don't remember. Okay, okay, in this way and more, because we had also the open day, and we decided to do not just one day as in presence of open day, but 10 days of open days with virtual meetings, YouTube video, chat session, question and answer, and so on. We had the virtual labs. We had a problem about the labs, as you can imagine. And so we decided to do the labs in two ways. In a way, we study a lot of simulations. We bought some service of simulation of labs, and also some professor came to Polimi and made their lecture from the labs. And so synchronous labs from our labs here in Polimi, transmitted by via Microsoft Teams. And we made also the online career day, but this is not my business, and so Francesca will explain then. So a lot of activities. We didn't stop, we never stopped the activities here in Politecnico di Milano. And we are very proud of it. And so this is the way in which we decided to cope with the situation. Now we are studying about the next semester. Our dean already said all the students that next semester we will do at least the 50% of lecture activity in presence. So we are studying how to do it. We are studying the measures of social distancing that could allow us to do the in-present lecture, because we want to underline the importance not to switching to an online university. We strongly believe that we can do good education activities online, but we want also to underline the importance of being here. I think from a certain point of view, that the occasion now is not to miss all the problem we solved because of the situation, but to ask ourselves how we can put in the pipeline, in the normal pipeline, all the things we discovered during this period. And this is the next big challenge that we are facing. And I think we face the peak, and we can face also this challenge. Okay, that's all.
Thank you, Aldo. Thank you very much for your presentation and sharing the situation in Politecnico di Milano, and congratulations for the work that you have done. I just have one very short comment based on your presentation, and we may come back to it later. But the thing is, of course, I mean, digital educational tools, digital education, distance teaching, learning. I mean, I've already been introduced in education since a long time ago. But as you said in your presentation, should I say, thanks to the COVID-19, the implementation and introduction has been massive. Nevertheless, I think it's too early or maybe unfair to raise any kind of conclusion, because as you mentioned, also part of the higher education community was forced into this situation and had no time really to prepare. But again, as you say, my hope is that we will, or we may, move towards a more blended approach of education, taking the best of digital education during lockdown with the best of physical education before the lockdown. And now, I was also part of the conclusion to say the question is, if the adoption of online learning, online teaching will continue after the COVID-19 crisis, and how such a shift may or would impact the worldwide education community. But if we have some time, we'll come back to it during the question and answer session. Thank you again for your presentation. Now I would like to welcome Francesca Saracino.
Yeah. I'm trying to start my video, but it says I can't.
I think now you are allowed to do so. Yes.
Okay.
Let me introduce a few words about you. You are the head of the career service at Politecnico di Milano. It's true that when we decided to launch this webinar about the implementation of effective digital strategy, it was also important to understand if and how the career service department from Politecnico di Milano has been impacted. And finally, the question is how you achieve to maintain, as I was saying in the beginning, a conversation or a link between students and companies. So please
yes.
Welcome, Francesca Saracino. The floor is yours.
All right. Let me see if I can. Okay. Do you see my slides?
Perfect. Yes.
Great. Okay, so yes, I'm going to speak about career services during and immediately after the emergency, the health emergency we all faced. A quick introduction. So I have been managing the career service since 2013, but even before, since 2005, the career service is the main office of the Politecnico that works on career development services. We are at the moment a group of 20 people, including myself, and we serve the entire population of the university, which is more than 45,000 students. So you can see that from this number, we are not able to work on an individual level with every student. But this is a similar situation of, that many career centers of universities face in the world. What really makes us unique, I think, is that we self-finance all of our services. So what we do is we sell services to the HR people of companies. We develop partnerships with employers to help them reach their employer branding and recruitment goals. And thanks to these funds, we then invest in services for students. So we have the advantage of having a certain freedom in how we manage our budget, which really helped during this emergency. Here you can see part of the team, you can see a screenshot of the website. So in 2020, at the end of February, beginning of March, we found ourselves in a situation that was unexpected. We had 2,000 internships active at the beginning of the emergency. So students and graduates all over the world, all over Italy, working in companies. All of our services were based on campus, in-person services. Obviously, we already had a website that worked very well. So all internships were activated digitally. We speak to students and companies over the phone. We have email, we have all of that. But in terms of events and a career advisory, all of that was done physically on campus mainly through our assessment centers, which are spaces, rooms that are on campus where students can walk in freely every day. And we had an average of 15 employers on campus every week. So this is just an average, because during a given week, we could even have like 100 employers at the same time on campus. So we really had an industrialized calendar of events going on. And we found ourselves at the beginning of the season, because like Aldo said, January and February are usually left for students to study and do their exams. And at the beginning of March is when the new semester starts. So that's when we really kick in with our events. So we had a schedule that was already ready to go. And we were left with nothing else to do than just to follow the way. So when it was decided to switch teaching online, we said, we need to keep career services going, because students are going to need some answers. They're going to need to focus, and some of them are finishing their students. Some of them are at the end of their years of study. So they probably have anxiety, a lot of questions about their future. So we want to keep the conversation going. We also saw the opportunity of, let's say, switching into new fields and new areas and innovating our services. So we liked the idea that we could do something new with the companies as well. So we chose the same platform that was going to be used for education, because we knew that the students would be familiar with the software. And some other important enablers that helped us really go from physical to digital in 2 weeks was the fact that internships were already activated digitally. So we didn't need to have any printed documents going around. That would have been pretty hard to achieve. Our staff was ready. Everybody was ready with phones and computers and connectivity at home, and a good, let's say, digital skill set. And they were really motivated to work on this. So I really found that the people I was working with wanted to make it all happen. Another thing that's really important is to have companies that you have a loyal partnership with, that they trust you, so that it's about having them, trust that what you're trying to do is the good way to go. We started from the companies that we knew better, so that they could help us show some examples for the less digital companies, the ones who didn't feel so ready. So the results are the numbers you see here. This is just a screenshot of some of the examples of events that we and services we had online. Some of them with companies, like this happy hour with companies for management engineering students. In total, we did 55 events online in 3 months with 157 companies and 3,000 students participating. What we really found is that the students' participation was even higher than normal. Sometimes it's hard for them to make it from a classroom to a career event. And here it was about just switching on and going online. So it was really easy for them. And it also felt a little bit more, let's say, easy, they were less anxious about their presence. They would ask questions more directly to the company. So they felt, I guess, more like they were in a secure place. And we really were surprised about the participation numbers. Of course, some of the events at the beginning, at least, the first 2 and 3 weeks were canceled or postponed mostly because we were maybe not ready with the format. The company wasn't ready, so we just decided to do them maybe 1 month or 2 months later. Something else that was affected apart from the events was the world of internships, and it was very chaotic because the situation was unpredictable. We didn't know how the health emergency was going to go, and we had to follow the government degrees and the regional regulations because in Italy, student internships follow government rules, whereas graduate internships follow the regional rules. So it's quite a complicated situation. And what we did was wait for each new decree to come out, analyze it, and then very fast send our, let's say, idea of new policy to the University Emergency Task Force. Basically, it's the rector with a number of other important decision makers in the university. And they gave us their opinion, and we went forward with a new policy. And it was hard to be fast and send out the information, the useful information to all host organizations and all interns about what was possible and what was not possible. Communication and marketing has a really important role here. You can see that we created this image of breaking news for guidelines for internships. It was really important for us to send out these important calls so that everyone knew what was going on. And the result was that 50% of the internships continued online. Because the government degrees and the regional regulations allowed students to do the internship at home as long as with their own devices. So the company was not obliged to send them a computer or other devices to use. And so we allowed it to happen, focusing especially on the students who needed to graduate. So the students who need to do compulsory internships that gave them credit that they needed before they graduate. Okay. Before the end of May, it was not possible for anyone to do an internship in presence. And from June, it's now possible. Although we do invite companies to use smart working if possible. So it's an online and presence mix at the moment. That is the ideal situation. And then something that Aldo has spoken about is our career day. It's one of the biggest events of the university. So not just the biggest event of the career service, but it's one of the biggest events of the university. And it's something that we work an entire year for. So at the beginning, we didn't know what to do. We didn't really call it off right away. We wanted to think about it. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about how it went. So soon enough, when it became evident that we were not going to be able to keep the date of the campus event, the rector said he wanted it to happen online, as close as possible to the real thing. And this was the real challenge. So how can we organize in 1 month an event where more than 100 companies are speaking simultaneously with thousands of students? And we did not have a platform ready to go that was especially made for career fairs, because they do exist on the market and some universities have already purchased them. We did not have one ready to go because we weren't doing any online events. And at that time, it was also difficult to get one going very quickly because these companies that organize online career fairs were having an overload of requests from universities. So this was the situation of the needs. So we wanted to be able to give students the possibility to roam freely among company stands like it happens at a real career fair. We also wanted them to be able to have one-to-one conversations and to take part in company presentations. So all of this on one day. What we did was postpone it, but not too much further. So instead of holding it on May 12, we held it on May 26. And we started the organization of this around April 15. So it was really just 1 month we had to work on this. And our choice was to customize Microsoft Teams platform because it was the only platform we had running that was reliable enough to do this on. And it was really an experiment both for us and for Microsoft because they had never done something like this. And what we did was we created 135 company teams, and there was also an additional team for the event itself, managed by my staff. So where students could find the event book and where they could ask us any questions during the day. And we had 4,400 students registered and close to 4,000, so 3,788 students who were actually active on the day of the event. It really took everyone in my team to work on that, not full-time. It was one person full-time for 1 month, plus the people in the technical support. But then during the day of the event and a couple of days before that, it took everyone in my team to work on it. It was pretty crazy because it's like managing all of the unpredictable things that can happen during a live event, but online. So it's an experience that I would suggest going through. It worked well. It worked very well. I didn't have time to put in the slide with the feedback, but the feedback was very, very positive from both students and companies. Many companies who didn't believe in it at the beginning, they at the end, they were very, very happy they did it, and they said they had interviews with possible candidates that they're going to move forward. And students were basically 80% very satisfied with the event. They had some observations and critical aspects, but it was regarding the format. Like, we had 1 month to organize, so obviously some things maybe we didn't think about so thoroughly. So it's things that we would change, but everyone understood what it meant to organize this event. So in general, the feedback was super positive from everyone. And you can see we chose to give it free of charge to our company partners because at the time, the most important thing for us was to make sure that as many companies as possible stay on board. We wanted to have students in this conversation with them. And the last thing we did was create a new cycle of seminars, the job market in tricky times. The idea was to invent something new that could respond to this new scenario and help students reflect on what was going on in the job market. And so we asked some company experts to do 1 hour seminars with us on the topics that you see in the slide. And this was very successful because we had over 200 students registered and participating. And the participating students were over 100 students, unique students for every seminar. So it was very successful. And the companies as well liked the idea of speaking about present crisis with the students. So it's something that you don't need to worry about. Like, nobody is afraid. I mean, what we saw was that nobody was afraid to speak about what was going on because it was something that everyone was going through. And it gave students the opportunity to ask questions and to have conversations while they were at home alone. So the assessment centers I spoke to you about, the physical spaces like this one that we have on campus, We usually serve 3,000 unique students during a standard year. And one of the most common services and appreciated services we have are mock assessment groups. So this is 10 students in a room with 2 company assessors. They go through an assessment on soft skills. And this is something that students and companies love very much. So we switched it to online too. We found that the same tool that we were using, so the same software, would work. We helped the companies find the right format, and we did a lot of testing with them. And so we were able to do 35 mock group assessments online during the 3 months, with 700 of individual appointments with our career advisors as well. So final slide was coming up next. We sent out a survey in May towards our 300 partner companies to ask them about their expectations and needs for the next semester. At the same time, we started analyzing and testing new digital platforms and just digital tools that we are going to integrate or consider for purchase. And right now, the situation that we foresee is that we will have 60% of our events and services will be online only, but 40% will be both on campus and online at the same time. This may switch to 50-50. What we're trying to see is how companies will respond, because for some companies, it's still hard for them to send people on campus. So we're trying to make it possible for both to happen at the same time. And some final takeaways is that, you know, students need career services now more than ever. They face the fear of their future, and so we need to be there for them. This emergency did provide an opportunity for career services to go digital, where companies were skeptical, but we were also a little bit behind. I mean, all of us, I think, in career services. In the digital space, students feel more protected and participate more, especially on certain subjects. For example, all of our career events on diversity and inclusion topics are working much better than they worked in presence. The only way to do it right is to keep practicing and to experiment, because you need to get you know, your hands on the tools, and it's the only way to do it. We need to be ready to adapt fast, because we don't know what could happen next semester, and we do need to take risks. So organizing the virtual career day was a big risk. We spent a lot of money. We had never done it before. We didn't know how it could go. It went very well. So we even had a lot of coverage on media, on local media. So, and I'm here speaking to you about it today. So this is something that I'm very proud about, and it's one of the reasons why I liked how Politecnico responded to the emergency. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Francesca, for your presentation. I also have to say congratulations. I mean, for the work that you and your team have done during this period of time. I would say it's both impressive and inspiring. As we have a few minutes, I propose to open the question and answer session, and I will start, and I will start with you, Francesca. I have two short questions, or comment, but the first one. My first reaction, my first question is to ask you, how does it feel to be head of a career service and to be informed that you have 1 month to switch all of a sudden in a virtual and effective, of course, way, an event gathering more than 5,000 students and 400 company, and how do you feel now? And my second question is, well, you started to talk about it, but do you see such a virtual events as a temporary solution to cope with the current situation? Or do you think that such a virtual format could be an opportunity that could be explored, and why it could represent an added value if so?
Yeah. So how did I feel at the beginning? I felt, well, at the beginning, I felt like it was a lot. It was too much. I felt overwhelmed. At the same time, I needed to be there for the team and help them believe in the project. So I didn't let that get to me too much. And I used the energy to go forward. And so it was 3 months of high energy working, which also helped me on a personal level with the quarantine. We were, at home. We couldn't work further than 200 meters from our home. So I was one of the lucky ones working on something I could believe in. I couldn't stop to think too much about what could go wrong. And some things did go wrong. And I mean, we found out about some problems during the process, and we found creative ways to solve the problems. But there were some moments of crisis there. But there was a lot of teamwork, a lot of fast working, fast adapting. So how do I feel now? Very satisfied. I have seen some very good results in numbers, in feedback, in emails, and in even the decision makers at the university. So I feel really good about what we did. I think it was the right thing to do. How do I see virtual events in the future? I think it really depends on where the students will be. If the students will be on campus, we need to be on campus. But if some of the students are not on campus at our same time and space, we need to be somewhere else for them. And especially, I mean, we have synchronicity also. So it's a matter of not just space, but also time. If we start to have students who are not here in Italy, but somewhere else on a different time zone, we have to think about that as well. So I'm not saying that we necessarily need to serve services 24 hours, all of our services 24 hours, but we need to think about this. And I think the virtual space can be very useful. So I believe that a mix of virtual and presence will stay there for good. It will be something that we will keep probably for the next years, and not just because of the health emergency. At least for career services. Career services is about connecting people. So if people are in different places in time, we need to find other ways to bring them together.
Indeed. Well, again, thank you very much for sharing this practical experience from the Career Service Department from Politecnico di Milano. I have also one last question for Aldo. Aldo, we know that, if I can say so, part of the higher education community, or maybe a few professors were somehow either a bit reluctant and not really familiar with digital education. Do you think that the situation is different now? And have you measured professors and student feedback about it? And if so, can you let us know about the results? And I have the same question that I just made to Francesca. It's about the post-crisis situation. Will Poly.ME training go back to the way it was before? And to rephrase, do you think that digital education is a temporary solution, or do you think and do you see something more about it?
Okay, thank you for your question. I think that I start from your last question. I think it's not possible to come back and put in brackets what happened in those months. It's totally impossible, because students now tried a mix of online and in-presence learning, and they appreciate the particularity and the situation in which distance learning is very effective, and also professors, because I have an anecdote about it. When we started doing the exam, we had a totally different situation between professors who had their education activity in the second semester and who had in the first semester, because people that tried the online activities, teaching activity during the second semester were totally calm about the exams, because they said, okay, I did my teaching activity, I can do also my exams online. It's not a problem. When we started, they were very upset, very worried about it. People who doesn't teach in the second semester were really scared about the exams, because they never tried the online teaching activity. So I think in this case, the importance of try the digital activity, and we were forced to try, was very important, and changed the mind of the professors involved. So, for example, in the first semester in September, we will have to face the problem that some students cannot reach the Politecnico di Milano, and so we must do something blended. We are studying a blended form of education in which all the activities will be online and in presence, and you must grant the access to all the activity to the students in presence and online. And so I think now professors are facing the problem with the exams and so on, and they will face the didactical activity in the first semester of next year. And then we can sit down and ask us, okay, what are the very keys of in-presence education? What we cannot miss and we want to reinforce when we can come back to our rooms? And what are the keys of online education? And which part of online education we must use also in the future? Also when we have the possibility not to miss time. And so we can say, okay, I have an activity which involves a lot of students. I don't have the right classroom in the Politecnico. Okay, I do it online, because then we will use the hours in presence for activity that in which my presence and the presence of the students is really important, is something that is not, you must be in presence in order to have a good result. Otherwise, all the very stressed period we had now will be waste, and I don't want it. I want that we sit down and ask ourselves, okay, what must be also next year online? What must be very important that we do in presence? And this is the key point now. The new normal is the key point now, in my opinion.
There's a question on the chat saying, how did you manage written exams online?
Yes, it was a big challenge. We gave professor three different options. One is a proctored system, and so we adopted a system with a lockdown browser, in which the browser cannot exit the page of the exam, so you cannot use Google and so on, and also you cannot have different programs on your laptop run. And we are doing all the access test to university using this system. So it's not perfect, but it's the best option between the options we decided to test. So we tested several options and we decided for this one. which is exactly, it is called Respondus. Okay, this is the software. But a lot of professors decided to do it using Zoom. And so we ask students to open their webcam during the test, and professors can, and also the microphone. And so they are doing the test with the webcam on and the mic on. So professor can follow, is not so easy, 49 people at a time with all the thumbnail and moving from a thumbnail to another one. And also we made a big job with students about the honor code. So we asked them to sign an honor code. Was not in use in our university. So we wrote an honor code and we asked students to sign it before of the exams. And we made several talks about integrity, because, you know, as one of my professors said in this period, he says, okay, now you are a student and I am a professor, but in 2 years we will be colleagues. And I don't want to be a colleague with a person who cheated during an important exam. And the students agreed with us. We work a lot together with students. We involve them in all the decision. The representative of the students board is in the crisis unit of the Politecnico, so he speaks with the rector, with the deans, and so on. And we decided to share all the decision with them, and to ask them to help us to take the right path. And they were very, very responsible. But, you know, a big university is made of very good students, so it was easy for us.
Thank you very much, Aldo. I think it's time actually to conclude our webinar. Again, thank you very much to Aldo and to Francesca for sharing your insight and your expertise with us. We hope to have more conversation about it in the future. I would like also to thank all the participants for joining us. Just a final reminder, a recording of this webinar should be available, and I will let you know very soon about it. So again, thank you very much for joining us. We will be in touch with you about the next T.I.M.E Association webinars, and all good wishes to all of you from the T.I.M.E Association. Bye.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Everybody
Bye.
for listening.